The night was quiet around the human colony. Lamps glowed on the streets, but just beyond the lights, darkness covered the broken edges of the settlement. A man named Daniel was walking back from work, his bag half empty after giving away some food to neighbors. He was tired, his boots heavy with dust, and his mind only wished for sleep. But fate had other plans. As he passed near the old waste yard, Daniel heard a faint sound. It was not the wind, not the usual hum of colony machines. It was softer, like a whimper. He stopped. At first he thought it was just a wild animal, but then came a small cough, followed by the sound of someone breathing heavily. His heart tightened. Someone was there. Carefully, Daniel stepped closer. His eyes scanned the shadows. Behind a stack of broken crates, he saw movement. At first, it was just two glowing eyes reflecting the light. He froze. The shape was small, curled up, thin. Then the figure slowly lifted its head. It was a child. Not a human child, but an alien one. Her skin shimmered faintly in the light, pale with hunger. Her hair, though tangled, had a strange silvery shine. She looked no older than 10 years. Her big eyes stared at him with both fear and hope. She was clutching a piece of dirty cloth, around her shoulders, shivering. Daniel's first thought was to step back. The colony had rules. Aliens outside the trade market were not supposed to be helped. People whispered that helping them would bring trouble. But the way the little girl looked at him, desperate and trembling, pulled at his chest. "Are you hungry?" Daniel asked gently. The alien girl nodded, her lips too dry to speak. Without another word, Daniel opened his bag and pulled out the last piece of bread he had saved for himself. He looked at it for a moment, his dinner. Then he knelt down and placed it on the ground in front of her. Her hands moved slowly, shaking as if she expected him to snatch it away. But when she saw no anger in his face, she grabbed it and bit into it with a hunger so deep it almost broke Daniel's heart. She chewed quickly, tears forming in her eyes as though she hadn't eaten for days. "Easy," he said softly. "You'll choke." She slowed down, but she did not stop. She ate as though every bite gave her life again. When the bread was gone, she licked the crumbs from her fingers, embarrassed by her own desperation. Then, to Daniel's surprise, she looked up at him with determination. "You want a wife?" she whispered in broken words. Daniel blinked. He was sure he had misheard her. "What?" The girl nodded firmly, as if her courage had returned now, that her stomach was not empty. "You want a wife," she said again, clearer this time. Then, with a seriousness far beyond her years, she added, "My mother is perfect for you." Daniel stared at her, stunned. He had expected thanks, maybe even silence, but not this. "Your mother." The little alien girl stood up now, her small frame still weak but her eyes shining with hope. "Yes," she said. "She is strong, she is kind. She needs someone like you." Daniel almost laughed, but the weight in her voice stopped him. She wasn't joking. She truly meant it. "Why would you say that?" he asked quietly. The girl stepped closer. "Because you gave me food. No one gives us food. Humans, they turn away, but you—" She placed her tiny hand on his arm, her skin cool and trembling. "You are different." Daniel felt the chill of her touch. He could see now that this was not just a child's fantasy. There was desperation in her tone, a deep sadness behind her words. She wasn't offering her mother out of playfulness. She was begging for something more. Protection, survival, a chance. "My mother, she hides," the girl whispered. "She is afraid, but she is beautiful and strong. You will see. Come." Before Daniel could answer, she tugged at his sleeve, trying to pull him toward the shadows beyond the yard. "Wait," Daniel said, his voice low. "Where are you taking me?" "To her," the girl replied simply. Her eyes glowed with determination. "You must meet her." Daniel hesitated. This was madness. He had only stopped to help a starving child. And now he was being asked to meet her hidden mother, offered to him as a wife. He almost turned back. But curiosity burned inside him. Who was this mysterious woman the child spoke of? And why was the girl so sure he was the right one? The night air felt heavier as Daniel followed her small steps. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this meeting was no ordinary chance. Something was waiting for him in the darkness. Something that would change his life forever. Daniel followed the little alien girl through the broken paths outside the colony. The night was cold, the stars above sharp and endless, but she moved with quiet steps, as if she had walked these dark places many times before. Her small hand still held his sleeve, pulling him forward with surprising courage for someone so young. He wanted to ask questions, but something about her silence kept him quiet. He only heard the sound of gravel crunching beneath their feet, and the occasional whisper of wind through rusted pipes. Every shadow felt alive. Daniel wondered if he had made a mistake. Finally, he spoke. "Why did you say that? About your mother?" The girl stopped and turned her glowing eyes up at him. "Because it is true." "True?" "Yes. My mother is not like the others. She is different." The girl's voice softened, almost breaking. "She is strong. She can fight. She can survive. But she cannot live alone forever." Daniel frowned. "And you think I'm the answer to that?" The child nodded quickly. "Yes, I know. You gave me food. No one gives us food. That means your heart is good. My mother needs someone with a good heart." Daniel sighed. He wanted to believe this was only a child's fantasy, but there was too much certainty in her tone. She wasn't playing. She was serious. They kept walking until they reached the edge of the colony. Beyond it lay the ruins, old stone buildings and metal wrecks from a forgotten age. It was a place humans rarely visited, dangerous, empty. But the girl led him without fear. As they walked, Daniel noticed how thin she was. Her small frame almost disappeared under the ragged cloth she wore. Hunger had carved her body, but not her spirit. She walked like someone carrying a mission far greater than herself. He asked gently, "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Lyra." "Lyra," Daniel repeated softly. "And your mother?" Her lips curved into the smallest smile. "Her name is Soraya. You will see. She is perfect." Daniel felt the weight of that name, even though he had never heard it before. Perfect? How could a starving alien hiding in ruins be perfect for him? Yet the way Lyra said it filled him with curiosity. "Why does she hide?" Daniel asked. Lyra's face grew darker. "Because humans do not like her kind. They call her dangerous, they call her untamable. But they do not know her heart." Daniel slowed his steps. He had heard whispers before, stories about aliens in the wastelands, fierce ones. Some said they attacked traders. Others said they were cursed. Perhaps this girl's mother was one of them. But when he looked down at Lyra, this fragile child holding his hand with such trust, he could not believe her mother was a monster. They reached a broken wall, half covered in vines. Lyra pushed aside a piece of metal and slipped through a narrow opening. Daniel followed, careful not to cut himself on the sharp edges. Inside was darker, quieter. The air smelled of dust and old stone. "Here," Lyra whispered. She pointed deeper inside. Daniel paused. His instincts screamed danger, yet his heart whispered something else, something he couldn't name. He took a deep breath and followed her deeper into the ruins. As they walked, Lyra spoke again, her voice shaking. "When my father died, humans chased us. They said my mother was too wild, too strong to be allowed near the colony. But she never hurt anyone, she only protected me." Daniel listened closely. The pieces were falling together. This family had been marked. The colony feared them. Perhaps without reason, perhaps with. He couldn't know yet. But what struck him most was the loneliness in Lyra's words. A child speaking of loss with the weight of an adult. Why me? Daniel asked again. Out of all the men in the colony, why do you think your mother should be with me? Lyra stopped walking. She turned to him with steady eyes. Because I saw you before. Daniel blinked. You saw me? Yes. When you fixed the water pump. When you carried heavy crates for the old woman. When you gave food to the children. In the streets, I saw all of it. I watched. My mother needs someone who does not turn away. And you never turn away. Her words hit him harder than he expected. He had not realized anyone noticed his small acts of kindness. He had thought they were invisible, yet this alien child had been watching, judging, and now she was bringing him into her hidden world. Daniel felt a strange mix of fear and honor. He didn't know what awaited him beyond these walls, but he could not walk away now. Not after Lyra's trust, not after her plea. All right, he said quietly. Take me to her. Lyra's face lit up with relief. She held his hand tighter and guided him deeper into the darkness. Somewhere ahead, hidden from the human world, was Soraya, the mother who was called dangerous. The woman Lyra believed was perfect for him. Daniel's heart beat faster with every step. What kind of woman could inspire such devotion from her daughter? And why did fate choose him to meet her tonight? He didn't have the answers yet. But he knew one thing. His life would never be the same again. The ruins grew darker the deeper Daniel followed Lyra. The walls, once proud structures of stone and metal, now leaned like old bones. Cracks ran across every surface, and the wind howled faintly through broken windows. It was the kind of place most humans avoided, a place where shadows seemed to whisper. But Lyra walked without hesitation. She moved like someone who belonged here, as if the ruins themselves protected her. Daniel's steps, on the other hand, were slow, careful. His boots echoed faintly on the dusty floor. Every sound felt too loud in the silence. Almost there, Lyra whispered, squeezing his hand. Daniel swallowed. His heart thudded harder with every step. He had faced trouble before. Broken machines, angry men in the colony, even wild animals outside the walls. But nothing had made his chest tighten like this. He was about to meet the mother of this strange, desperate child, a woman whispered to be dangerous. They turned into a chamber where moonlight poured through a hole in the ceiling. Dust floated in the silver beams, giving the place an eerie glow. And there in the center, she stood, the mother. She was taller than Daniel expected, her figure both graceful and strong. Her skin had the same faint shimmer as her daughter's, but brighter, glowing softly in the moonlight. Long strands of silver black hair framed her face, falling past her shoulders. Her eyes, sharp, golden, unblinking, locked onto Daniel the moment he entered. Her presence filled the room. She didn't need weapons. She didn't need words. The way she stood, straight, alert, yet calm, spoke louder than anything. Lyra ran forward. Mama! Her small arms wrapped around the woman's waist. The fierce figure softened only then, bending slightly to place a protective hand on her daughter's head. But her eyes never left Daniel. Daniel froze. For the first time, he understood why people called her untamable. There was a wildness in her gaze, a fire that refused to bow. And yet there was no cruelty there, only caution. Who is this? She asked, her voice low, deep and smooth like stone sliding against stone. Lyra looked back at Daniel, her eyes shining. He is the one, Mama. The one I told you about. The human who gave me food. The woman's expression did not soften. If anything, it grew sharper. She studied Daniel as though peeling away his skin to see what was beneath. Daniel cleared his throat. My name is Daniel. I didn't mean to intrude. I just found your daughter outside. She was starving. The woman's golden eyes narrowed. And so you followed her here? Humans do not usually come to these ruins unless they want something. Her. Words were not shouted, but they struck with weight. Daniel felt as if he were standing before a judge. I don't want anything, he said carefully. I just wanted to make sure she was safe. The woman stepped closer, her movements smooth and precise like a predator circling prey. Daniel forced himself to hold her gaze, though every instinct screamed at him to look away. Lyra tugged at her mother's hand. "Mama, listen. He is kind, he is good, he can help us." "Help us?" the mother repeated, her voice sharper now. She finally looked at her daughter, her jaw tightening. "Lyra, how many times have I told you? We do not beg from humans. We do not tie ourselves to them." "But he is different," Lyra argued, her little voice trembling but strong. "He gave me food without asking anything. And he did not run when I told him about you." Silence fell between them. The mother looked back at Daniel, and for a brief moment something flickered in her golden eyes, something that wasn't suspicion. Pain. Daniel noticed it. That brief crack in her armor. And suddenly he realized the truth. This woman wasn't untamable because she was cruel. She was untamable because she had been forced to be strong for too long. "I'm not here to control you," Daniel said quietly. I couldn't walk away from your daughter." The woman's jaw tightened again, but she did not reply. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice soft and desperate. "Mama, please. He could be the one who stays, the one who makes us safe." The woman's hand trembled slightly on her daughter's shoulder. She closed her eyes for a moment as though fighting something inside her. When she opened them again, her stare at Daniel was less sharp, but no less powerful. "My name is Soraya," she said at last. Daniel nodded slowly, respecting the weight of the introduction. "Soraya." The way he said it made the air feel heavier. The chamber seemed smaller now, as though fate itself had drawn them into this moment. Soraya turned her head, studying him from a different angle. For the first time, Daniel thought he saw doubt in her eyes, not about him, but about herself. She had been called dangerous, abandoned, hunted, and now, in front of her daughter's hopeful eyes, she had to decide whether to push this human away or allow him closer. Lyra smiled brightly, as though she already knew the answer. "See, Mama, I told you." He came. Daniel didn't know what lay ahead, but as Soraya's golden eyes lingered on him, he felt something stir deep inside. A pull he could not explain. He had come here for a child. But now he realized his life was tied to something far greater. The meeting was no accident, it was the beginning. The chamber grew still after Soraya spoke her name. Her golden eyes stayed fixed on Daniel, as if waiting for him to flinch or step back. But Daniel did not move. He only nodded, showing quiet respect. Lyra looked from one to the other, her little face glowing with hope. But Soraya's voice broke, the silence like a blade. "You should leave, human. You have done your kindness. That is enough." Daniel frowned. "Leave? After your daughter asked me to come?" Soraya's jaw tightened. "She is a child. She does not understand what she asks. Humans and my kind should not mix." Lyra gasped. "Mama, no, he is different." She clung to her mother's arm. "Please, he could be the one who stays. He could be—" "Enough, Lyra," Soraya said sharply, but her eyes trembled with pain. Daniel felt the tension pressing down like heavy stone. He wanted to walk away, but something inside stopped him. This woman, this proud, guarded figure, was more than she showed. And the child's desperate hope made it impossible to turn his back. "You think I'm here for pity?" Daniel said, quietly. "I'm not. Your daughter believes in you. She believes in me. If I walk away now, I betray her trust." Soraya stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped closer, her presence so strong it made the air heavy. "And if I told you that helping us will put your life in danger?" Daniel swallowed but did not step back. "Then I'd still stand here." A strange silence followed. Soraya's eyes searched his face as if testing every word. Finally, she turned slightly, her voice lowering. "Do you know what they call me in your colony?" Daniel shook his head. "The untamable." Her lips curved into a bitter smile. "They say I cannot be controlled, cannot be broken. They fear me. They think if I live near them, I will destroy them. Daniel's chest tightened. He had heard whispers, but hearing it from her own lips carried a different weight. Is it true? He asked carefully. Her golden eyes burned into his. I am untamable, because I chose to be. I will not kneel to men who treat me as less. I will not bow to rules that starve my daughter. If that makes me dangerous, then yes, I am dangerous. Her words struck Daniel like thunder. She wasn't just strong. She was unbroken, even after all she had endured. Lyra's small voice broke. But Mama, you don't have to be alone anymore. Soraya's hand tightened on her daughter's shoulder. Her gaze softened for only a heartbeat, then hardened again. She turned back to Daniel. Do you understand what it means, human? If you take one step further into our lives, you will not walk back unchanged. My daughter sees you as hope, but hope comes with a price. Daniel frowned. What price? Soraya's voice dropped to a near whisper, but it was sharp as steel. If you want to stay near us, then you must accept a bond. You must accept me, not as a burden, not as a stranger, but as if I were already yours. The words hit Daniel like a storm. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. She wasn't just speaking of friendship or protection. She was laying down something heavier, something almost sacred. Lyra's eyes widened, her face glowing. See, she said it. She said it. The child almost danced in place. But Daniel's heart pounded. He barely knew Soraya. Yet here she was, offering herself in the most dangerous way, not out of weakness but out of fierce pride. It was not a plea. It was a challenge. If you refuse, Soraya added, her voice steady, you must leave tonight. Forget you ever met us. I will not let you linger at the edge of our lives. My daughter has already lost too much. She will not lose hope again. Daniel's throat went dry. He saw now what this was. It was not just an offer. It was a test, a dangerous one. He looked at Lyra. The little girl's eyes begged him silently. Her small hands clutched tightly together. She wanted him to stay. She wanted her mother safe. Then he looked at Soraya. Proud, unbending, untamable. Her face held no weakness. But behind the fire in her eyes, Daniel thought he saw something else, a flicker of fear, buried so deep she would never admit it. Slowly, he drew in a breath. You think I'll run from this, you think I'll be scared, but Soraya, I'm not afraid of you and I don't plan on leaving. For the first time, Soraya blinked in surprise. You don't even know me, she said. Daniel nodded. Not yet. But I know enough. I know you fought for your daughter. I know you've survived what others could not, and I know this. If Lyra believes you're perfect, then maybe she sees something I should too. The room went quiet. Even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. Soraya's golden eyes studied him for a long time. Her lips pressed together, her face unreadable. Then at last she spoke in a low voice. Very well, human. But do not mistake this bond for mercy. You chose this. And once chosen, it cannot be undone. Lyra let out a joyful cry, hugging her mother's waist. Mama, he said yes. He said yes. Daniel exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of what he had just agreed to. He didn't know where this path would lead, but he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer just an outsider who gave food to a starving girl. He had stepped into something far greater, and the danger was only just beginning. The night outside the ruins grew restless. The wind carried strange sounds, footsteps, whispers, the crunch of heavy boots on broken ground. Daniel did not notice it at first, but Soraya did. Her golden eyes narrowed, her head lifting sharply like a hunter catching the scent of danger. Someone is here, she whispered. Lyra froze. Her small hands clutched her mother's arm. Mama. Daniel turned toward the dark passage they had entered through. At first he saw nothing. Then came the glow of moving lanterns and shadows stretched across the cracked walls. His stomach tightened. Whoever was out there, they were not here by accident. Soraya pulled Lyra behind her. Her posture fierce and ready, she looked at Daniel. Hunters. Daniel's blood ran cold. He had heard of them before, men who prowled outside the colony walls, searching for aliens to capture or kill. They called it cleansing. In truth, it was cruelty dressed as duty. The voices grew closer. Tracks lead here, one man barked. She can't be far. The untamable one hides in these ruins. Careful, they say she's strong. Soraya's jaw clenched, but her eyes blazed with fire. They came, for me, she said. Daniel stepped forward. Then we'll stop them. Soraya turned to him, her expression sharp. This is not your fight, human. Daniel shook his head. It is now. You think I can just leave you and Lyra to them? Before she could argue, the hunters entered the chamber. 4 men armed with rifles and blades, their faces lit with greed and hatred. They froze for a moment when they saw Soraya standing tall, her daughter behind her and a human man at her side. Well, well, one sneered. Looks like the rumors were true. The beast has company. A human fool. Another laughed. Maybe. He thinks she'll be his pet. Daniel's fists clenched, but Soraya stepped forward. Her voice was like thunder. Leave now, and you live. The men laughed harder. Hear that? She still thinks she's queen of the ruins. One raised his weapon. No more running, alien. Tonight it ends. Before he could fire, Soraya moved. She was lightning, fast, precise. She struck his arm, sending the rifle crashing to the ground. A sharp kick sent him sprawling into a wall. The others cursed and rushed forward. Daniel had no weapon, but instinct took over. He grabbed a loose pipe from the ground and swung it hard, blocking a blade aimed at Soraya's side. The clash rang through the ruins. His arms shook from the impact, but he didn't let go. Stay behind me, Lyra, he shouted. The girl pressed. Against the wall, her wide eyes shining with both terror and belief. She whispered, You can do it, Daniel. Please don't let them take her. Her words gave him strength. He shoved the man back, swinging the pipe again. The fight was chaos, shouts, crashes, sparks of metal against stone. Soraya moved like a storm, her strikes filled with raw strength and grace. Daniel fought with grit, using every ounce of will to keep the hunters back, but there were too many. One of the hunters grabbed Daniel from behind, his arm tightening around his throat. Daniel gasped, struggling for air. Another lunged at Soraya with a knife. Lyra screamed. Mama! Soraya twisted, catching the attacker's wrist. With a snarl, she bent it back until the knife clattered to the floor. But the distraction gave another hunter the chance to grab her arm. Daniel's vision blurred as the man's grip on his throat tightened. Desperation fueled him. With all his strength, he slammed his head backward, striking the man's nose. Blood sprayed, and the grip loosened. Daniel broke free, gasping for air. He raised the pipe and struck hard, knocking the hunter to the ground. His chest burned, but he stayed on his feet. Soraya broke free as well, her golden eyes blazing with fury. She shoved the last attacker back, her voice shaking the chamber. I warned you. The hunters, battered and bleeding, finally hesitated. One of them spat blood and glared. This isn't over, alien. You can't hide forever. The colony will hear of this. Next time we'll bring more. They dragged their wounded away, leaving threats behind like poison in the air. Silence returned, broken only by Lyra's soft sobs. She ran to her mother, clinging tightly. Soraya bent down, holding her close, her strong frame trembling slightly from the fight. Daniel leaned on the pipe, his breath ragged. His arms ached, his throat burned, but he was still standing. He looked at Soraya, and for the first time, she met his gaze not with suspicion, but with something else. Respect. You fought, she said quietly, when you could have run. Daniel nodded, his voice rough. I told you, I don't leave people behind. For a moment, her golden eyes softened. Then she looked down at Lyra, brushing her hair gently. And I told you, Soraya whispered. Hope comes with a price. Daniel straightened, gripping the pipe. Then I'll pay it. The words hung in the air, heavy, unshakable. Soraya studied him, silent for a long time. Then she gave the smallest nod, as though some wall inside her had cracked. Perhaps Daniel thought this was the moment Soraya began to believe. But deep down, he knew the hunter's words were true. They would return, and next time the danger would be greater. The ruins were silent again after the hunters left, but the silence felt heavy, like the calm after a storm. Broken weapons lay scattered across the floor, and the faint smell of blood lingered in the air. Lyra clung tightly to her mother's waist, trembling, while Daniel leaned against a cracked wall, his chest rising and falling with sharp breaths. For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the sound of Lyra's soft crying filled the chamber. Then Soraya lifted her hand and gently stroked her daughter's silver hair. Her voice, usually so strong, carried a softness Daniel had not heard before. "Shh. We're safe for now," she whispered. Daniel slowly stood straighter, still gripping the dented pipe he had used as a weapon. His throat ached from where the hunter had grabbed him, and his arms burned with exhaustion. But his eyes stayed sharp. He knew this wasn't the end. "They'll come back," Daniel said quietly. Soraya looked at him, her golden eyes steady. "Yes, and next time they won't come alone." Lyra's little voice broke in, shaky but filled with hope. "But Mama, Daniel fought with us. He didn't leave. He's brave." Soraya's gaze lingered on Daniel. Something inside her shifted. An old wall built from years of distrust and loneliness had cracked during the fight. She had seen men turn their backs before, but Daniel had stood his ground even when he had no reason to. "You risked your life," she said slowly. "For me. For her." Daniel met her eyes without hesitation. "Because it was the right thing to do. I couldn't let them hurt you." Her expression tightened as though fighting a battle inside herself. "Do you know what you've done? By standing with me, you've marked yourself. The hunters will call you a traitor. The colony may turn against you." Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "Then let them. I'd rather be called a traitor than a coward." Soraya stared at him, searching his face for any sign of weakness. But she found none. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her battles ease, just a little. Lyra beamed through her tears. "Mama, see? I told you he's different. I told you." Soraya exhaled slowly, brushing her daughter's cheek. Then she looked back at Daniel, her voice quieter, almost vulnerable. "You don't understand what you've tied yourself to. I've been hunted since before my daughter was born. I've lost friends, family. To stay near me is to live with danger every day." Daniel tightened his grip on the pipe, his voice steady. "Then I'll live with danger, because I'd rather fight beside you than walk away knowing I left you alone." Something flickered in her golden eyes. Not fire, not suspicion. Something warmer. Something she had buried for too long. The chamber grew still again, but the silence was different now. It wasn't heavy with fear. It was heavy with unspoken trust. Finally, Soraya spoke. "Very well, Daniel. If you choose this path, then know. Your life is no longer only yours. You protect her." She pulled Lyra closer. "And you protect me." Daniel nodded firmly. "I will." The words carried weight, not just a promise, but an oath. Lyra's smile widened, her small arms wrapping around both of them. "We're a family now," she whispered, her voice full of innocent joy. Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had not come here seeking family. But in this broken ruin, among danger and shadows, something new was being born. Still, the threat lingered like a storm on the horizon. That night, Daniel stayed with them in the ruins. He helped Soraya block the entrances with stones and broken metal, turning the chamber into a fortress. When Lyra grew sleepy, he sat near her, keeping watch as she curled beside her mother. Soraya remained awake as well, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She studied Daniel in silence, watching the way he kept alert even after the battle, the way he sat close enough to protect but far enough to respect her space. "You are strange, human," she murmured at last. Daniel turned his head. Strange how? You fight without fear, yet you do not seek control. Most men I have known wanted to tame me, to own me. You only stand beside me. Daniel gave a small smile. Maybe that's what makes me different. I don't want to own you, Soraya. I just want to stand with you. For the first time, her lips curved. Not a smile of mockery or challenge, but something faint and real. A smile born of surprise. She looked down at her daughter, who was fast asleep, her small hand still gripping Daniel's sleeve even in dreams. Soraya whispered softly, almost to herself. Perhaps you truly are the one she saw. The night stretched on, filled with quiet tension, but also with something new. Something neither Soraya nor Daniel had felt in years. A fragile bond, like fire warming the cold ruins. But both of them knew this bond would be tested soon. The hunters had promised to return. And when they did, it would not just be a fight for survival. It would be a fight for everything: trust, family, and the right to live free. For now, though, in the silent ruins, Daniel kept his promise. He stood watch, pipe in hand, eyes sharp, protecting mother and child with a fierce devotion that no enemy could break. And Soraya, the untamable one, allowed herself, for just one night, to rest. The morning light slipped through the cracks in the ruined chamber, painting the dust in golden beams. For the first time in what felt like forever, Lyra woke without fear. She yawned softly, stretching her small arms, and found Daniel sitting nearby, still holding the old pipe like a guard. His eyes were tired but alert. "Mama," she whispered, shaking Soraya gently. He really stayed. Soraya opened her eyes slowly. She had not slept deeply, but her body had allowed rest for the first time in years. Her golden eyes turned toward Daniel. He was bruised, scratched, his throat marked red where the hunter had grabbed him. And yet, he sat steady, calm, as if this place now belonged to him too. "You kept watch all night," Soraya said quietly. Daniel gave a small shrug. "I promised." Those words echoed in Soraya's heart. She had heard promises before, but they had always broken like glass. Yet this man, this human, seemed carved from something different. Lyra beamed with joy. "Mama, I told you, he's the one. Now we're safe. Now we're together." Soraya's lips curved faintly, but she did not answer right away. She stood, walking to the broken doorway, and gazed at the world outside. The morning sky stretched wide, but beyond the horizon lay danger. The hunters would return. The colony would not forgive betrayal. She had lived too long to believe safety would come easily. Daniel joined her at the doorway, his voice steady. "They'll be back, maybe with more men, maybe even soldiers." "I know," Soraya replied. "Then we'll fight," he said simply. She turned her head to study him. He spoke without hesitation, without fear. A man with no weapons, no armor, yet he stood beside her as though nothing could shake him. "You truly mean to stay?" she whispered. Daniel nodded. "I've already chosen." The weight of his words sank into her. All her life, Soraya had been untamable, untouchable, forced to live as an outcast. Now here was a man who did not seek to chain her, but to stand with her. Something inside her, something long buried, began to stir. Lyra ran to them, wrapping her little hands around theirs. "We're a family now," she said proudly, her voice echoing in the ruins like a sacred truth. Daniel and Soraya exchanged a look. Neither corrected her, but even as warmth filled the chamber, the shadow of danger still lingered. Later that day, Daniel led them back toward the colony's edge. He knew it was dangerous, but he also knew hiding forever in ruins would not be enough. If they were to survive, they needed supplies, tools, and perhaps even allies. As they walked, Soraya moved, cautiously, always scanning the distance. Her hand rested protectively on Lyra's shoulder, but her golden eyes often flicked to Daniel. She still didn't fully trust humans, but she trusted him more than she had expected. When they reached a quiet corner of the colony's outskirts, Daniel paused. He pointed to an old storage shed he sometimes used while working. We can stay here for now. It's not much, but it's shelter. Soraya studied the shed, then looked back at him. You risk everything by hiding us here. Daniel's voice was calm. Some things are worth the risk. For the first time, Soraya's face softened fully. Not guarded, not suspicious. Simply human, though she was not human at all. Perhaps you are stranger than I thought, she murmured. As night fell again, Daniel repaired the broken door of the shed, while Lyra hummed happily, playing with scraps of metal as though they were toys. Soraya sat quietly, watching them both. In her chest, something warmed, something she had not felt since before her husband had died. Hope. That night, after Lyra fell asleep in her mother's arms, Soraya turned to Daniel. Her voice was low, her tone steady but softer than before. You have already given more than I expected. You have fought, you have stayed, and you have carried danger on your back. Tell me, Daniel. Why? Daniel looked at her, his face tired but honest. Because when I saw your daughter starving, I couldn't look away. And when I saw you, I realized neither of you should have to fight alone anymore. Her golden eyes lingered on his face, searching again for weakness, but all she saw was truth. Slowly, for the first time, Soraya reached out her hand, not in battle, not in defense, but in trust. Daniel took it, and in that simple touch, something changed. The untamable alien woman, feared by many, had allowed a human into her world. And the human who had come only to give food had found himself bound to something far greater than he had ever imagined. The hunters would return. The colony would turn against him. The future would not be easy, but in that small shed on the edge of two worlds, a new beginning had taken root, built on trust, courage, and the fierce bond of a mother, a child, and the human who chose to stand beside them. For the first time in years, Soraya whispered words she thought she would never say again. Thank you, Daniel. He smiled softly. You don't have to thank me. We're in this together now. Lyra stirred in her sleep, whispering happily, My mother is perfect for you. And as the night wrapped around them, Daniel knew the child had been right all along. This was not the end. This was only the beginning.